welcome to the State of the University. Next year, in 2023, our university will celebrate its 125th birthday. And in that long history, there are years that stand out as markers of the progress and growth we've experienced as an institution. For example, 1898, when Southwestern Louisiana Industrial Institute was established. 1903, when we graduated our first students. 1921, when we awarded four-year degrees for the first time. 1954, when black students first enrolled here. 1960, when we became a university. In 1999, when our name was changed to reflect a national rather than regional prominence. Now, despite rumors that suggest otherwise, I was not present at all these events. But I was there, and so were many of you, at a moment in the past year that equaled them in significance, and it was a moment that you helped to create. Our ascent to the top tier of the nation's research universities was a 124-year climb, and it was this group, all of you, who pulled us to the summit. But none of us stood there alone. We were alongside the generations of faculty, staff, and students who walked this campus before us and whose intentionality and dedication lay at the roots of our collective success. It's humbling to consider that each of us are links in a continuum of progress that stretches back a century and a quarter. And like those who preceded us, the decisions we reach, the milestones we attain, the growth we plan, the partnerships we form, the strategic investments we make, all that we do now is a gateway for what's yet to come. And that's what Dr. Hebert and I will talk with you about today, how the past year of achievement lays the foundation for the next 125 years and beyond. So let's stay on the topic of R1 for a moment, because maintaining this status requires that we sustain the momentum that helped us to reach it. And we are well on our way to doing just that. Consider our research and development expenditures alone. As you might know, R&D spending is just one of the measures that the Carnegie classification uses to determine who inhabits the top tier of the nation's research universities. In 2017, the university crossed the $100 million mark in R&D spending for the first time, and we haven't looked back since then. In 2020, we reached $164 million, which placed us 134th among all institutions that the National Science Foundation includes in its Higher Education Research and Development Survey. However, if you include only public institutions, we rank 94th, which means that this university finds itself for the first time among the top 100 public research universities in the nation. I'm going to say that again. UL Lafayette is a top 100 public research university in America. Now, coming on the heels of our R1 designation, this is an exceptional, newsworthy event to celebrate, and it's a headline that all of you have helped to write. But there's more. I'm proud to report that during the 2021 fiscal year, we expended $181.4 million in research and development. That's an incredible increase of nearly 193% in 8 years. That is amazing. Now, since 2013, the university has expended slightly more than $1 billion in research and development. And because these dollars have an effect that ripples beyond campus, into our region, into our businesses, into our tax base, this figure represents an infusion into the local economy that is extraordinary. And that's on top of the economic impact of our operating budget of $250 million a year. So what is R1 good for in Acadiana? How about $1 billion? That's real economic development. Now, this money comes to us from state and federal funding agencies and through partnerships with businesses and industry because of the reputation that you and the university has for consequential work that answers the greatest questions we face as a global community. So for us, it's not just an issue of dollars and cents, though dollars and cents are important. What's more important are the solutions that result from these investments. The vital questions asked and answered today by the university's researchers and scholars strengthen the ability to confront and to answer greater questions tomorrow. The region, state, nation, and world that we serve is looking for us for clarity, understanding, and results. And this university is up to that responsibility. Take, for example, the issue of climate change. Louisiana, and as a result, the university, finds itself on the front lines of this immense global challenge. An international report released earlier this year said that the state, Louisiana, which is already experiencing rising sea levels, more intense hurricanes, record heat waves, and regular flood-inducing storms, can expect these conditions to worsen unless their causes are addressed. One of the report's authors compared climate change and its effect as an alarm bell for Louisiana. Here we have researchers in multiple disciplines who are answering that bell by confronting the causes and implications of this environmental crisis and offering solutions so that we know how to adapt. During the past year, the university announced the creation of the C1 Extension Service. Led by Dr. Mark Zappi and our Energy Institute of Louisiana, the service aims to help the state meet its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. Reaching this goal was strengthened earlier this year when the university joined a multi-state, multi-university hub that recognizes hydrogen's role as an energy source that helps reduce carbon emissions. The green hydrogen efforts, led by Dr. Terry Chambers, holds the possibility to do that as well. Reducing carbon emissions helps mitigate rising sea levels that have affected the ability of some coastal residents to continue to inhabit areas where their ancestors have lived for centuries. Areas like Ile de Jean Charles and Terrebonne Parish, where Dr. Heather Stone has worked to preserve oral histories of those who have witnessed their island homes be reduced to a sliver of their former size because of coastal land loss and storms. Dr. Kelly Robinson and Dr. Beth Stauffer were among an international team of researchers who studied how coastal ecosystems have historically responded to hurricanes to better understand how they'll act as future storms grow in intensity. And with those stronger storms come an inland flooding threat that Dr. Imad Habib and the Louisiana Watershed Flood Center continue to work to mitigate through waterway monitoring systems and hydrological models designed to protect property and save lives. Collectively, this work is significant and impactful. It's exactly the kind of interdisciplinary, intensive, multifocal approach that you'd expect from an R1 university like ours as we confront the global challenges that have very real local implications. And it's not just what's expected of us, it's what we are delivering. And the influence of the work being done here goes beyond any solitary issue. This is just a snapshot of the kind of research and scholarship that's being done by faculty in every college and discipline. In the past year, our faculty have taken up new challenges, addressed persisting ones, and have helped us to understand ourselves and the world around us a little bit more clearly. Through scholarship, student success, and service, their work, your work, does more than strengthen the reputation of the institution. It strengthens society itself. Now, we recognize that maintaining R1 is not simply a case of continuing to attract external funding for the research that's being done here, though that is important. The university must make investments too, particularly in the areas of recruitment and retention of faculty and staff researchers, and in support for and growth of our doctoral programs. There are two additional areas that Carnegie considers when designing or designating and reaffirming top-tier institutions. We've set aside operational dollars this year to do just that. We recognize that we must also use R1 as a recruitment tool to attract students at all levels by offering them opportunities to work alongside faculty members and guided research experiences in every discipline. We have the infrastructure in place to do so, thanks to the quality enhancement plan that was at the heart of our successful reaccreditation 2 years ago. Now, speaking of enrollment, while we don't yet have a full enrollment picture for the fall semester, Preliminary figures indicate strength in the number of first-time freshmen that we'll welcome in a few days. We anticipate that this fall's freshman class will be the largest in 5 years. Now, not only that, this is an exceptionally well-prepared group with impressive GPAs and ACT scores. This is refreshing news both for this year and for the years ahead. The numbers of first-time freshmen have been down over the past few years, and as a result, we've had fewer continuing students advancing. So the anticipated growth in our freshman class this year is the beginning of reversing that trend. Now, this chart shows the university continues to generate the bulk of its own revenue. And thankfully, increased federal and state dollars over the past few years have somewhat reduced that reality. But student tuition and fees remain the bulk of our overall revenue. And that underscores the important role that each of us plays in student recruitment and retention. But I want to make one thing very clear. While R1 is a stamp of excellence that we certainly should use in our student recruitment efforts, we do not want to present the designation as a marker of exclusivity. We are an engine of social mobility, and we will remain so. We will continue to focus on serving our broader community and providing the students who come to us to pursue their academic and professional dreams a real chance to succeed. Now, no designation is more important than ensuring that the university remains an accessible and supportive place for students of all backgrounds who see our institution as a gateway to opportunity, not just to a world-class education, but to lives of success and purpose. And speaking of success, commencement earlier this month ended an academic year in which we awarded 3,382 degrees. This total included a record number of degrees awarded to graduates of Asian and Hispanic descent and other underrepresented groups, and shows the steady progress that we've made towards reaching the goals outlined in our strategic plan for inclusive excellence. For example, in the past several years, we've increased graduation rates among Black students and those of Hispanic and Asian descent, including record numbers from underrepresented backgrounds who have earned master's and doctoral degrees. The strategic plan for inclusive excellence sets an ambitious and measurable agenda that advances diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in hiring, course offerings, community outreach, student recruitment, retention, and student services. In May, the university concluded the Educating for Equity Fellows Program, funded by the Louisiana Board of Regents. This program participants design courses that incorporate equitable practices into classroom learning. And in the spring, the Office of Campus Diversity and the Office of Sustainability teamed up to showcase research that explored how climate change affects diverse groups of people. So our DEIB efforts have not gone unnoticed. And I'm happy to report that we received word just a week or so ago that we once again been recognized by Insight into Diversity magazine with its Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award. That makes 5 years in a row. But you know, creating and maintaining a welcoming environment that promotes accessibility, student success, is not simply a choice we're making. It represents an imperative for the economic, educational, cultural, and social health of our region. And during the most recent legislative session, we received a sizable boost to our ability to offer and enhance the opportunities we offer students, the support we provide faculty members, and our physical growth. Colleges and universities across the state will benefit from the record investments that the governor and legislators made in higher education during the session that ended in June. Lawmakers prioritized affordability and student success by once again fully funding TOPS and providing a substantial infusion to the GO Grant program, which provides need-based financial aid to low to moderate income students. Legislators also approved salary adjustments for classified employees and pay increases for our faculty that went into effect on July the 1st. Classified employees received a 4% adjustment. Faculty received an average 4%, And thanks to reallocated operational funds, I'm pleased to announce that the university will provide unclassified staff members an average increase of 3% effective October the 1st. This is good news. I'm appreciative to the governor and the legislature for the support that they've shown our university and the people who fuel its success. Now, we have some legislators here who've joined us today, and I'd like to ask them to stand and be recognized. Representative Jonathan Goudeau, Representative Jean-Paul Cousson, and Senator and President of the Senate, Paige Cortez. Thank you all very much for your good work. Now, additionally, we received allocations for capital projects in the past legislative session. Now, I don't know that you haven't seen too many cranes on campus, but behind the scenes, the university is managing more projects related to our physical growth than at any time in recent memory. And rest assured, the cranes are coming soon. Projects that receive state funding will strengthen the influence of our research and public service missions, improve traditional teaching and learning spaces, and increase our ability to reach more students through distance education, enhance buildings that house vital student services, and renovate and enlarge athletic facilities so that they reflect the national prominence of our Louisiana Raging Cajuns as they continue to build those up. In addition, there's a group of larger projects that have received state funding that I'd like to place in the category of strategic growth for our institution and the region it proudly serves. They represent major investments in workforce development, the university's research infrastructure, and the overall economic and physical health of this region and beyond. Earlier this summer, we announced an agreement with the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette to purchase a portion of the former home of Our Lady of Lourdes Regional Medical Center. This nearly 6-acre tract on West St. Mary Boulevard and St. Landry Street contains medical office buildings, parking garages, and other facilities that were part of the hospital complex. We plan to relocate the College of Nursing and Health Sciences to the site, and with renovations and additional construction, the tract and its buildings will become the nucleus of a new health sciences campus. We remain in very productive talks with Lourdes about the purchase of additional acreage that will further bring this vision into focus. This property acquisition enables us to pursue multiple objectives. Among them, increasing the number of nursing and health sciences students we enroll and graduate, expanding degree programs, enhancing existing partnerships with health providers and building others, creating collaborations with professional schools and health systems, and deepening relationships with biomedical and biopharmaceutical firms. And all of this is good news for the region as it continues to build its reputation as a medical services hub, and it strengthens our role as the primary creator of this area's healthcare workforce. Speaking of biopharmaceuticals, as part of the capital projects funded by the legislature this year, our New Iberia Research Center will be upgraded to a Level 3 biosafety lab, which will enable more advanced on-site research for infectious diseases. Now, you'll remember that our New Iberia campus played a critical role in the development of the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19, the world's first widely available vaccine and the first to win FDA approval. But this life-saving measure was delayed because final testing for the vaccine could not occur at NIRC's Level 2 facility. Thanks to this investment and expansion, that will no longer be the case. And stay tuned because there are a lot more good news coming out of New Iberia later this month. This year, we also received additional funding that will enable our College of Engineering to position itself on the leading edge of educating tomorrow's engineering workforce. The college is a nationally recognized leader in both traditional and emerging renewable energy sources, materials and manufacturing, water management, bioengineering, and smart systems. And a new engineering classroom will enable the college to take that leadership to a new level. Along with the planned renovations to Madison Hall, this new 70,000 square foot classroom building will offer a contemporary student-centered facility that will encourage interactive and interdisciplinary collaborations among students and faculty in the college's multiple departments and between the college and business and industry partners. With smart classrooms, maker spaces, and an engineering center of excellence, this new building will enable the college to empower its students with the knowledge and skills they need to be the next generation of engineering leaders. Located behind Madison Hall, the new building will be an unambiguous statement that this university is preparing its students to engineer a future that is strong, smart, and sustainable. Now, the projects that I've mentioned today are not the only ones being managed currently. We're just getting started. In the coming year, the university plans to ask for state funds for a new lab school in the College of Education, new buildings for the College of Liberal Arts and the College of Sciences, and renovations to Angell Hall, among others. Now, many of the capital outlay projects that I've mentioned, the nursing and engineering buildings, for example, and the ongoing renovation and plans to Cajun Field at Our Lady of Lourdes Stadium, will require more state funds and added private dollars to ensure their completion. As such, philanthropy is essential to our continued growth and success. Private dollars enable the university to meet its most essential needs by offsetting limits in state funding. In addition, donors provide scholarships for students and endowed support for faculty members, and they enhance the university's community service mission. Now, these three areas are among the pillars of the university's Together campaign, the largest comprehensive fundraising initiative we've ever undertaken. It launched publicly last year and aims to raise $500 million by its conclusion. To date, I'm happy to report the campaign has brought in $341 million, nearly 70% of its goal. Now, I'm very grateful to the donors, the alumni, and the friends who have contributed to this campaign to date. Their generosity and that of the future supporters will enable the campaign to reach its finish line and will help shape the future of the university for years to come. We have with us representatives of the UL Foundation, the Alumni Association, Raging Cajun Athletic Foundation, and the RCFI Facilities Boards, and several community partners and other elected officials who have helped us along the way. Would you all please stand and be recognized? I'm also very pleased that members of the UL System Board of Supervisors are here. Mr. Mark Romero and Dr. Jimmy Clark, would you please stand? Thank you all for the service that you provide the university. You know, I started this presentation by looking back at some significant dates in our past, and I hope that I've been able to share with you the idea that the year we just concluded will, without question, make its way into the history books too. This year, we achieved R1. We took our place among the nation's top 100 public research universities. We had a top 20 football team, brought home 3 Sun Belt Conference championships, and you saw all the accolades of the faculty and staff just before we began, so this was not a bad year. And we and others will look back on it as a defining moment for this university. In the 1940s, one of my predecessors, Dr. Joel Fletcher, purchased undeveloped land down the Abbeville Highway, now Johnson Street, from the original campus. Now, I don't know if Dr. Fletcher ever stood on the edge of that property and envisioned an athletics complex, a convention center, an agricultural coliseum, intramural fields, a research park, or Cajun Dome, and more. But that's what's there now. Dr. Fletcher was, and we all are, links in the story of progress of this institution. Like him, the decisions we make today define where we go tomorrow. The milestones we reach are but launching pads for the opportunities that lie ahead. The state of our university is strong, and we can become stronger still by continuing to make smart decisions about the directions that we'll go in the years ahead. We must continue to follow a strategic plan. Now, strategic planning requires introspection, imagination, and input, and that's what it has received from many of you during the past several months. As a result, we've made significant progress defining the next chapter for our institution. And Dr. Hebert will join us shortly to describe where the process is, its next steps, and the role each of you and we will play in ensuring its successful completion. So in closing, I want to thank you for an extraordinary year. Against the backdrop of incredible challenge, each of you has risen to the occasion and taken this university into a new era of promise. As we enter our 125th year, even greater possibilities are within reach. We only have to be bold enough to grasp them, and I know that we are. So thank you for all that we do. Here's to a great fall semester, and go Cajuns. Dr. Hebert?
Thank you very much, Dr. Savoie. Before I begin my formal presentation, I'd just like to take a moment personally on behalf of every single person in this room to thank you for your leadership for this university. And thank you for laying out our path forward after so many major accomplishments we've seen this past year, accomplishments that we achieved together in the face of a multitude of challenges. It really has been a very difficult couple of years, and everyone in this room needs to be recognized and acknowledged for their dedication and perseverance, their part in the successes that Dr. Savoie just mentioned. Many of you over these couple of years were asked to take on more and new responsibilities as the university pivoted with the external and internal forces that acted upon us through those 2 years. And you rose to the occasion in noble fashion. Because of the students, because of our purpose at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, and because we all know that what we do matters on a very human level. The successes of the last 2 years are not unlike the successes that the university has seen over the past several decades. Despite the challenges and unknowns over these decades, strategic investments in programmatic growth, in infrastructure, in construction, in renovation, acquisition, the development of a modern ERP system, just to name a few. These investments were made to propel us toward the successes that we celebrate today. In fact, in the last decade alone, over $500 million in strategic investments aligned with the greater aspirations of the university have created a foundation to build upon and created successes that we can leverage as we forge ahead in our future. Like President Savoie said, though we're in a better place fiscally, we still must be good stewards of our limited resources. And that's why it's critical that we continue to make strategic investments to continue the momentum, to continue the successes that we have created. At this juncture in the evolution of our university, we must make critical decisions and carefully prioritize our initiatives, our activities, in a way that delivers the greatest impact and represents our collective vision for a university. And that is precisely why we are putting so much effort into our current strategic planning process. When we began this process over a year ago, before we witnessed the recognitions, many of the recognitions and successes in research and athletics that we saw today, we believed at that time, early in last fall, that within a year or two, we may just achieve those goals. But December rolled around, and lo and behold, we had hit those high, nationally prominent marks, having attained R1 status and other nationally recognized accomplishments, like a top 25 football ranking this past year. Go Cajuns. We knew that we would have to raise the bar in our next strategic plan. Actually, we knew that we would have to broaden the bar as well as Raise It in our next strategic plan. Building on that foundation, leveraging these successes, and broadening our national prominence across the many, many high potential and high achieving areas that we see throughout our campus. Through this planning process, we know that we must define what we want to accomplish over the next decade as an institution, but aligning those aspirations with how we accomplish it and why we accomplish it will make this plan uniquely ours, defining who we are among R1 universities, among other nationally prominent universities in a myriad of areas. We know that if we identify what makes UL Lafayette unique, if we can pinpoint what gives this institution its distinctiveness, then we can create a plan that not only communicates our vision, but a plan that communicates our uniqueness. And that's exactly what we want in a plan. So we ask for your input. We've met with and brainstormed with a multitude of groups, and many wonderful suggestions and many profound insights have been offered for our forward vision as a university. And we'll continue to solicit input as the process progresses. But the process thus far has provided a very clear framework within which we will complete our plan this fall. There's been quite a bit of work and activity towards developing our new strategic plan. The planning team has administered multiple surveys, had numerous retreats, met with countless constituent groups, and the vice presidents and deans are currently working on priority goals within their own divisions and colleges. All of these things will inform the overall university plan. And through this process, we collected 3,655 unique responses to various questions within our surveys, a great deal of information. And since the fall of 2019, we've embarked on listening tours with every single academic department to hear their story, learn their points of pride, understand their frustrations, learn about their non-negotiable values. And we started to identify themes that were common to every college, to every program, and to every division. We've held retreats. We have asked students multiple times to provide feedback on what is most important to them. We've witnessed the feedback from students change as we transitioned from a COVID environment back to a face-to-face environment and as new post-COVID challenges evolved. We conducted an external environmental scan in 2019 and then witnessed that information be upended because of COVID. We conducted another post-COVID environmental scan and discovered that society's and our constituents' views of higher education were changing at a pretty rapid pace. We gathered information, lots of information. We synthesized it, and in doing so, began to identify basic themes that most constituents, including you, our students, and our alumni, who incidentally provided 25% of all of the responses to our surveys, believed were most important. In total, as I said, we received 3,655 unique responses and individual suggestions. We had our largest number of responses from students, who represent 44% of the individuals who provided impact. And as spring 2022 semester progressed and discussions were held among various campus groups, there was a high level of agreement on the most important aspects of the framework on certain priority themes. There is little deviation among any constituent groups about what the most critical themes are that support our mission and our purpose as a university. The observed priorities and aspirations can be categorized into 4 overarching areas, representing the highest level aspirational categories of the institution: student experience and success, serving, teaching, and learning, research, innovation, and creativity, and cultural and fiscal viability. Specific goals, objectives, strategies, achievement targets under each of these 4 areas are being developed within all divisions and colleges at this time, and these will be finalized over the fall, essentially operationalizing these high-level themes. Let me provide a little bit more detail on each of these. Student experience and student success is the primary driver for why we're here. We need to ask tough questions right now, this fall, as we develop our specific strategies. Are we certain that the UL student experience meets the needs of the contemporary student who grew up with technology and convenience in the midst of a pandemic? Do we measure up to their and society's expectations? Where and how do we improve that experience? Serving, teaching, and learning provides the conduit through which we deliver that experience. At the core, the very core of educating students is our responsibility to import a servant mindset and to instill in our students a desire to impact the human condition in a positive, meaningful way. Research, innovation, creativity provide the academic and scholarly atmosphere in which we operate. In addition to the funded research which we celebrate, our faculty and staff are ambitious, and they are prolific in scholarship, innovation, and in creative activity throughout our campus. But data-driven decision-making, innovation, and creativity is not limited to only research and creative enterprise. It can be and should be applied across the university in every single thing we undertake. Cultural and fiscal vitality is critical in everything that we pursue. The success of the strategic plan lies within available fiscal resources and within an organization that embraces the distinctive culture of our university. A plan without those resources and without that culture is destined for failure. Every constituent group recognized priorities within these 4 overarching areas. But there were also some common additional priorities that transcended these categories that were clearly evident in our conversations. And it's in these interwoven priorities that we really began to see the distinctiveness of our institution. These interwoven priorities appeared consistently in our data and represent the standards and ideals that we uphold not only in what we want to do, but in how we work toward our aspirations. These are critical priorities. They must be embedded and addressed in everything we do within all of these overarching areas. These interwoven priorities include diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. The tenets of DEIB must be considered throughout all of our strategic themes as objectives and success measures are developed. Even a workplace that has every intention of embracing DEI sometimes fails to retain employees because they don't feel like they belong. Belonging in the workplace brings a shift toward safety and a shift toward real inclusion. And at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, we should be the finest example of this type of environment, and we should aspire to be so in every single thing that we do in this plan. Through sustainability efforts, we fully embrace our environmental, social, economic responsibilities, prepare each student for success as a globally responsible, productive citizen committed to environmental stewardship. Basically, sustainability is about improving the quality of lives in everything we do in this plan. And stewardship embodies responsible planning and management of human, financial, and physical resources. Stewardship is about managing our financial and human resources so that we gain the level of influence necessary to be successful in every aspect of our plan. The culture of the institution, organizational culture, is critical. It creates the environment in the organization, influences the nature of long-term plans that move the organization toward that vision. Now, we're really fortunate to work in a place that has a people-centered culture. But we must protect that organizational culture in all of our strategic initiatives and must always focus, as we move forward, in everything we do on the people side of things. In addition to primary priorities, those 4 overarching priority areas and those interwoven priorities, groups began to discuss values, behaviors, and principles that they felt are necessary to pursue our aspirations in a manner consistent with our culture, consistent with who we are and who we want to be. These values represent who we are in many respects. They also represent who we aspire to be in many respects. These values should always be the guiding principles that provide our organization with purpose and with direction. These values shape our organizational culture and play an integral role describing our distinctive nature as an institution. This is a framework. It's a framework that you described in your feedback. It's a guide. It's a template, if you will, that we must keep in mind as we list out our divisional priorities this fall and pare them down within our resource and personnel constraints. And that is precisely what our next steps are, that second phase in our planning process. But we do have a few areas that we will need to address very early on during the fall semester. And the planning team refers to these areas as hybrid areas or cross-functional areas. You'll note that these areas of intersection between the primary priority areas. Each of these primary areas can be populated, the primary areas can be populated with strategic initiatives that are isolated within separate divisions. For example, there may be fiscal or physical plant-related strategies, and there probably are, that only impact our cultural and fiscal vitality. But there are clearly some strategic initiatives that will overlap multiple priority areas. Our QEP that the President referenced earlier, Advance, is a great example of a crossover in the research, innovation, and creativity priority with the service, teaching, and learning priority, and also crosses with the student experience and success priority. Several of these hybrid priorities have already been identified. They're bubbling up. And we'll be creating work groups early on this fall to establish strategic objectives within each of these areas. These groups will meet on a regular basis, analyze needs, solve problems, provide members with support, promote continuous improvement, and share information as they develop recommendations about those specific crossover priorities. It's a very, very, very meticulous effort to pare down these initiatives and to validate them within that framework we just discussed. But that is our goal. And it's our goal to do this by December, and we will. The work is actually done. It's now time for assembly and assimilation. The result will be a plan that is informed by all, a plan that represents what we aspire to be as an institution, but also represents our principles of social, environmental, economic, and organizational impact. The plan will reflect not only what we will do, but why we do what we do. And it'll be a plan that reflects the values that we heard about over and over and over in these discussions. A roadmap that takes us down a path with purpose and a journey completed in a way that only we can complete it. It's how we do it. It'll be a plan that represents the Raging Cajun way and Raging Cajun successes. That truly is what makes us distinctive. Not just a plan that describes what we want to do, but a plan that embraces why we do what we do and reflects how we do it here at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. At our R1 celebration, Dr. Savoie referenced a poem and likened this grand achievement, achieving R1 status, to that of a ship leaving the protected waters of the harbor and being out where the big ships sail. And we are there, on the big waters where the big ships sail. We're fortunate, every single one of us is fortunate to be part of this historical moment. With this plan, we have the collective honor of charting the course for this institution through those open waters. This framework is a compass, but it's only a compass. This fall, we chart the course, and together we will describe just what being our R1 institution is all about. You'll be receiving a link to a short survey that will go out to the employee listserv. Within that survey, you're going to have an opportunity to tell us what you think makes us distinctive. You also have an opportunity to volunteer for the cross-functional work groups. Please stay as involved as you have been so far in this process. You know, it took 3,655 unique responses to get us here. We ran those responses through a Wordle algorithm and created this word cloud. The most common word among those responses, student, followed by faculty, university, research, and staff. We know who we are, and I love being a part of this place. Have a great year. Go Cajuns. Look forward to working with you on this in the fall.